Good morning, grand rising, buenos dias, everybody. Welcome to Thursday Daily Huddle Spiritual Matters. I'm your host, Dr. Monikah Ogando. And today we're going to be talking about the 8 phases, the 8 seasons of manifestation. I don't have a joke for you today, but I do have a quote. Who's surprised that I have a quote instead of a joke? And that is, all things in due season. That quote has always been a source of extreme impatience for me until I found out that there are seasons in manifestation, and now I understand the wisdom. So welcome to Thursday Spiritual Huddle, Spiritual Matters Thursdays.
There are seasons for manifestation. That's interesting.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Spiritual Matters Thursdays. How are you, Gio, today?
You're asking me, how am I?
I am. I'm asking you, how are you today?
Oh, thank you. Let me look. It's going to be some version of whatever I say. So today I say I am free. Today I am free.
I love that. I co-sign that. That's lovely. Sorrel, are you around? Even though you're not on video, but are you around?
I am not around. I am here.
You're here. That's good. You know, giving the answer before the question, I was going to ask you, where are you and what are you grateful for today?
I am here, and I am grateful for the art, science, and power of being present, like being here. Yeah, and also grateful for the seat warmers in my car.
Oh my goodness, yes. Especially in a few months, those are going to come in really, really, really handy. Absolutely. That's lovely. Great. And you know who else we have here? We have Cece in the building. Hello, Cece.
Good morning. Good morning.
Oh my goodness. Who are you going to hug today?
I think I'm gonna hug a tree today.
Hey, our lovely, lovely, lovely tree friends. I love that. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Today, we're talking about the 8 seasons of manifestation. And I'm going to get, as usual, a little nerdy, a little mathematical, but then we're going to bring it all together so that it makes sense so that you can have something practical and useful and relevant that you can take into your life and apply it. So you know how a circle has 360 degrees, right? And our year has 365 days in it. The reason why those extra 5 days had been added to the year instead of it just being a regular circle with 360 degrees, 360 days, is because of a 1 degree shift in the Earth's axis and making sure that it manages its own, that we, in our living and in our culture, manage the moving of the seasons of our planet Earth. Now, it will behoove you to know what those seasons are so that you can understand how they are related to manifestation. But the reason why I bring up the 360 degrees in a circle is because I think you know that our planet is not a circle, it's more like an elliptical. So we have to make up for that difference. And if you divide 360 degrees into 8, you get 45, right? You get 45 degrees. And so if you could just imagine dividing the seasons, just like we have 4 seasons, imagine having like the first half and the second half of each one of those 4 seasons, those 45 days and 45 days. Imagine having that as a path of manifestation. Let me explain. Most people think that in order to manifest, you just have to think of something and then like wish for it and fervor and meditate and pray for it and ooh, and just kind of hold it in your heart, and boom, it just becomes manifested. There have been some things that you probably have created that way, that you have probably manifested that way for, but 90% of the stuff that you have manifested has had extra steps in it. And we haven't had an opportunity together to discuss the formula for that level of manifestation so that you can be scientific about it and be able to duplicate your efforts with success every single time, make it a repeatable process. So let me take you through those 8 seasons. The first season of manifestation, or the first step of manifestation, is to, yes, get clear on what objective you're going for. Think of the what, right? Now, a lot of times what ends up happening is that when we think of the what, we immediately think of the yeah, but as well. We want this thing, we desire this thing, but it's too expensive, it takes too much time, I can't have it, I've never seen anybody do it before, et cetera, et cetera. It's not time for the yeah, but yet. There will be time for that. First, you have to get very clear about your objective and specific. I always tell my friends that you have to be definite with the infinite. And if you're going to pull a specific reality out of the quantum field, you got to know what it is that you're pulling out of there. It can't just be, you know, the afro from the guy in the, do you remember those, the Globetrotters, those cartoons? So you have to be very specific about what it is that you are wanting to pull out of the quantum field into manifested form. So that's the first step, is determine the what, is to get clear on your objective. That's the thought form of your manifestation. The second step of that manifestation is to imbue it with emotion. You probably have heard this before. If you've done any kind of work about manifestation, if you've done any kind of work about creating your reality and working with your own brain and with your own thought forms, et cetera, you know that the most important part of manifestation at the ideation level is to match the thought with the emotion. And so that's kind of like mom and dad of creation. The thought is the pattern. That's where we get the word father from, is from the Latin pater, or pattern. So there's a pattern that you want to be clear about. And then there's the womb, or the feminine aspect, the emotional aspect that houses that seed of that pattern to then grow it up to be a full-on manifestation or a full-on baby, right? And so what does that mean? That means that if you were clear about your objective, and then you lived from the place where you already had it, where it was already manifested, what emotions would come up for you? Maybe you would feel a sense of pride. Maybe you would feel a sense of accomplishment. Maybe you would feel a sense of relief. Maybe you'd be so ecstatic and so happy and so excited that you couldn't wait to tell other people. Maybe you would feel a sense of achievement, like, oh my gosh, I actually did that. And it was so easy and it was so effortless. And you'd kind of like be impressed with nature or impressed with the way that just things are just flowing and it didn't take a lot of work and it wasn't hard, or et cetera, et cetera. So I want you to get into the mindset of what is something that you wanted to manifest or something that you want to create for yourself. Let's say by the end of the year, let's say by December 2022, what's something that you want to create? And be very specific about it. I'll give you an example and then we'll run with it, right? So imagine that you want to get your health, your fitness to a certain level. One of my declarations has been that I want to run a 10K race, it's 6.2 miles, on Thanksgiving Day with my family. My family is coming from all over the country to come to Atlanta and spend some time with me. So, okay, now what would be the feeling that I would get after I crossed the finish line at the time that I wanted? Like, imagine being able to do that in 45 minutes or less, Monica. Oh my God, the sense of accomplishment, the sense of I did it, the sense of pride, the sense of like high-fiving my sister and high-fiving my mom, and just imagining people cheering me, et cetera. So you imbue it with that emotion, okay? When you get clear at the thought form and at the emotion level of what it is that you are trying, what you're manifesting, what you're working on, etc., now come the yeah buts. This is called the clearing phase. So first you have the planning phase. Planning is getting clear on the what. Then the planting phase, that's the getting the emotion in there and imbuing your subconscious with the feeling nature of its achievement. And then you have the clearing phase. And the clearing phase is just as if you were weeding a garden, just as you plant a seed, eventually you're going to have to take the weeds out so that the seed can continue to grow unencumbered. So what does taking the weeds out of your own consciousness, out of your own thought process look like? It looks like instead of doing affirmations, so a lot of us are familiar with affirmations, you also do denials. And denials sound something like this. I clear all the ways in which I don't believe I can run 10K race in less than 45 minutes. I clear all the ways in which I don't believe myself to be an athlete. I clear all the ways, or I release all the ways, or I negate all the ways. Those are different ways of saying it. But the clearing phase is where you remove or where you clear all the things that might be in the way of the achievement of what you say you want. Some of that is at the thought level, for example, those affirmations and denials, and some of it is at the physical level. For example, remove the obstacles of you're going to train, right? You're going to train for this 10K. Okay, then make it easy to train. Put the sneakers at the door. Get your gym clothes ready the night before so that you don't have the obstacle of, oh my God, I got to get up early and I have to do all of this. You have to make it really easy for you to have that accomplishment. You clear the obstacles. Okay? So that's the third phase. You have planning, planting, clearing. The fourth phase is called the gathering phase. Now imagine that after you've planned this objective, after you've planted that seed in the soil of your own consciousness, after you've cleared all the weeds, you start to recognize that there may be some other ingredients that you need. For example, maybe, Monica, you need to train, you need to do your cardio, you need to do some weight training, you need to do some gym work, let's say 3-4 times a week. You need to eat differently in order to support this new level of athleticism. Perhaps you've been sleeping 5-6 hours, but now you need to sleep 7-8 hours a day to rejuvenate your body so that it can be ready for this level of strain. And so the gathering phase is where you start to recognize and act as if it's a part of the reverse engineering process of when you see something done, what did it take to get there? And you reverse engineer your steps so that then you recognize what other strategic steps now need to be available to me. That's the gathering phase. It's kind of like gathering your next ingredients, right? When you decide that you're making, I'm using a cooking analogy now. When you decide that you're cooking something, and you're like, oh, you know what this needs? This needs more vanilla extract, or I need a little bit more sugar on this cake, or I need, et cetera. The flame needs to be higher, et cetera. So you're gathering your ingredients. The next level is, or the next phase is the visionary or the seeing phase. The seeing phase. When you see that objective, when you start making headway to it, when you've cleared the objectives or you've cleared the obstacles, then and you've gathered your ingredients, now you're beginning to see kind of like the end goal, right? You're starting to really vision that and manifest it. All of these pieces that I've just told you are internal. And there's external aspects of manifestation as well. The internal ones are more like the feminine energy, and the external ones are more like the masculine energy. So the masculine energy, once you've done all that internal work, then you get to work on the outside. Now that I know, oh, this is what my training needs to look like. This is what my diet needs to look like. This is what my sleep needs to look like. These are what my supplements I need to take. And I've gathered all my ingredients. Now take action. Now take action. So the next phase after the seeing phase is the leading, like leadership, leading phase. So what do leaders do? once leaders have their resources and once they have their staff and once they have a clear vision and objective and the strategy, et cetera, they get to work. They start delegating. They make requests. They put people in different places so that they have the right butts in the right seats. And that's what you do. For example, I may have to hire a trainer. I may have to join a gym membership if I don't already have one. I may have to, put my groceries, the supplements, et cetera, on auto ship so that I don't have to think about these things because they're already happening, right? Like a well-oiled machine. And the next phase out of that is then the doing phase. Once you've done all that internal work, once you've gathered your resources, once you've put the plan in motion, now it's time to execute. Now, here's what sometimes people go wrong, is that they are still litigating the objective at the doing phase. When it's time to execute, this is not the time to think. This is not the time to determine what the objective is going to be. You keep moving the goalpost when it's time to just go get it. And so the doing phase is kind of like a soldier. A soldier is not in charge of creating the battle plan. The soldier is in charge of executing the battle plan that has already been established, following orders, as it were. So there's a part of your consciousness that's just about execution, get her done. That's the doing phase. And then when you've done all of that, when you've done all the thinking, all the feeling, all the weeding out, all the clearing, all the visioning and gathering, the leading and the doing, then it's time to boast. Then it's the using phase. It's the enjoyment phase. We talked about celebration last week. The enjoyment phase is when you're actually like celebrating what you have accomplished, celebrating the work that it took. A lot of times we are not very proficient at acknowledging ourselves for the effort and the discipline and the focus and the sacrifices that we have given for our objectives. If you watch the Emmys I think it was last Monday, Cheryl Lee Ralph won her first Emmy ever after being in the industry for 40 plus years. And her acceptance speech was legendary. She went up on stage and she sang a piece of a song called Endangered Species. And the lyrics say, "I am an endangered species, but I sing no victim song." And she brought the house down. It was heartfelt and it was beautiful and it was unapologetic. More than anything else, it was unapologetic. It was like, she knows she's a badass. She's put in the work and she got there and she accepted. There was no false humility about her accepting this award. It was like, yes, I have had this coming and I accept it gladly. And there was gratitude in there, but it was not with fake humility. And so the using phase, the celebration, the bragging phase is not about bragging like this false bravado or even false humility. It's about acknowledging that it took what it took for you to get to where you want to be, to where you are celebrating and manifesting your desired outcome. So when you have those 8 phases, the reason I brought up the circumference and the 360 is because if you think about those 8 phases as 45-day bits, that's a whole year of manifesting your yearly goals. And when you understand, for example, that the clearing phase happens during the winter, then you understand that this is the time to go within. This is why I fast around Christmas time and the beginning of January. Because this is the time to clear. This is the time to not feed my system a lot of stuff. Instead, clear it out so that I can be available for the gathering phase, to get those divine downloads, to get what is it that I need? What's the strategy now? What do I need to change? What do I need to shift? What ingredients do I need to gather? So when you understand those 8 manifesting phases, and you understand that you're in the middle of, say, for example, a clearing phase, then you won't get impatient when you don't see anything. Imagine if you have planted some seeds in the soil, and then you come back, you wake up and it's December and everything is barren. If you didn't know the stages of manifestation, you would have thought that this was, wasted time, that it's not working, that you should just quit and get another objective, that this one is not going to pan out. But if you understand that you're just in December, you're just in the winter time, It's just a clearing phase. You got to keep walking in order to get to the gathering phase, the seeing phase, the springtime, to see the flowers bloom, et cetera, and finally the summertime, when you can harvest your manifestations. And then in September, which is what's happening next a couple of weeks, I'm in Egypt with a few people to do our fall equinox and our beginning of the year type of deal. In September, it starts all over again with the planning phase. So these 8 phases or 8 cycles or seasons of manifestation will support you in getting clear and in not losing patience with yourself when it comes to manifesting something that really matters to you. So I want to open it up so that we can talk about it, see if you have any questions or comments about these 8 phases and if I can support you in applying it in your life. Who's got a question or a comment? Ooh, Cece, come on up.
Good morning. This, what you described was quite interesting. I never thought of it as 45 days increments. So the wintertime is just a comment. It is where everything is dormant. So now I can be patient and wait for the springtime. That's why there's 4 seasons. So thank you for breaking that down like that. And I have a clearer understanding. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Cece. Who was next? I didn't see if it was Gio or Sorrel. Who was next?
It's the
I'll
same
go
thing.
first.
Okay, Sorrel, let's do it.
I agree with you, Gio. So I want to nerd out a little bit, right? So what you described took the woo-woo and the esoteric aspect of manifesting, when people usually use the word manifest. I'm manifesting a car, right? As if it's going to pop out of thin air. Yeah. And what I'm hearing you say, it's not that. A manifestation is perhaps my own recognition that I can speak something into existence. And on this plane, what I do is go through those seasons where I plan, I plant, I clear, and then I execute. I take actions, and then what I created and thought through my actions is now real.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, wow, everything in life is a project.
Yeah.
Literally, where that's the question I'm asking, because I'm coming from the world of engineering and nerding out as a program project manager, saying, yeah, I can manifest anything.
Yes.
Create it, plan it, take the action, manage it that way. Boom, I'm done. Now,
yeah. So
where's the spiritual connection? Where's the spiritual connection? That's what I want to get.
So, I mean, nothing is as magical as you as inventing something out of just thought form. I don't know how you could get any more spiritual than that you can actually just imagine something, and out of your imagination, out of your vision, out of your quantum field of possibilities, bring that. That's what's called bringing heaven to earth. The heaven realm is the realm of consciousness and of thought and of possibility. And bringing heaven to earth means bringing that imagination, bringing that possibility down into manifest form, into physical reality that we can share in our physical relationships and our connectivity. And so the spiritual aspect of it is understanding who you are as a creator, as an author of your own experience, and understanding that you are not at the effect of these things. You just haven't understood what the forces are. It's kind of like what I was saying earlier before we went live, that I was sharing with a friend that biologically, you cannot hold your eyes open when you sneeze. Next time you sneeze, just watch yourself and see. You can't hold your eyes open. Now, I don't know if that's a self-protective mechanism. Jill tried it. To make sure that your eyes don't pop out of their socket with the pressure of a sneeze, right? But in the same way that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, so that there are certain things that are protective of you and keep your system running in that way, in the same way, you have been engineered that way spiritually. to be made in the image and likeness of divine intelligence doesn't mean that there's anything woo-woo about it. It just means that you are able to create, just like divine intelligence creates. And so if you decide this is the kind of company that I want, or this is the kind of Christmas that I want to have with my family, or this is the kind of relationship that I want in my marriage, or this is the kind of body that I want to inhabit at this level of health or fitness, etc., you can create that. And when you understand the seasons of manifestation, then you don't get lost in the sauce about it. And then you can use that and leverage that instead of getting confused or frustrated about it.
Yeah, totally get it. And what I can see is that for many, perhaps like me, manifestation stops at the creation phase. Like I create and then I sit there and wait for it to happen, as opposed to actually going through the rest of the season.
Oh, you mean the ideation phase?
Yeah, the ideation phase.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Dr. Monikah. I got it.
Yeah, absolutely. Gio, what you got?
I am afraid to get off topic, but for some reason, the conversation triggered a thought for me, and I want to share it with you.
Okay.
The act of manifestation. So my entire life has been about manifesting something, or the struggle of it all, rather say, the struggle of manifesting, and then there is this attachment. Later, with the years, I've noticed my attachment to not just manifest, but to see it in reality.
Yeah.
And most of my suffering has been in the process of making a manifestation a reality. And so I have come to grips with the suffering as a human condition, where that's what's, and I'm not saying I'm right at all, I'm just sharing my thoughts.
Sure.
Well, that's what it is to be alive. It is to be someone who's goal oriented, is to suffer on the way. And then I've started to maybe discover a new way of looking at things, or the possibility of manifestation, which is the art of manifesting without having an attachment to it. And so that's, at first that was kind of boring, because what's the point of manifesting something if it's not for the recognition and the admiration of it all? Like, why do I want to get the Oscars if it's just not to get in front of a million people and just so that they say, well, you got an Oscar, otherwise you just got a piece of metal. Right? And so, wow. So I'm happy. I happen to be in the middle of it all, my life happens to be in the middle of this conversation. What is it all for? Anyway, yes. There is, I think, a science for manifesting, like you're pointing to, yes, in which I'm getting close to sort of understand. But where I'm at now, or where I'm discovering newly, is that the recognition of the manifestation is bankrupt. Maybe there's something else, but maybe there's something else to manifest for, but I don't know what it is for. Anyway, so that is where my life is right now. You sort of recreated my life in some degree, Monikah.
You're welcome.
Any thoughts on the ego aspect or the attachment aspect of manifestation?
Oh my gosh, so many thoughts. Absolutely. Because we have it like suffering is a mistake. It's like a glitch in the matrix, as though being disappointed.
That was awesome. Wait, hold on. I can't get past that.
I know why you're saying that.
Because I do have it as a glitch in the matrix. Suffering is like not supposed to.
Yeah. And it's like there's nothing in our existence, in our reality, that isn't supposed to be there. How do we know? Because it is there. And so how come we suffer? I think suffering and sadness and disappointment points us to a very necessary aspect of our humanity. It points us to ingenuity. If we weren't disappointed, we wouldn't try to resource another way of getting what we want. If we weren't suffering, we wouldn't try to get, around the bend so that we can find another possibility. It also attaches us to other people. I watched the movie Inside Out. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that story, but it's the story of a little girl who moves, and the 5 emotions that she deals with the most. One of them is sadness. The other one is joy. And joy is kind of like, let's all be happy. And she's kind of like running the show. She's like the senior emotion because she's had a happy childhood. And then sadness is just jacking everything up, and she's just touching core memories and making everything sad. And you just sit there and just do nothing, touch nothing. But sadness is a proxy, is a gateway to connection, is a gateway to empathy. It's a gateway to have other people show up for us. It's a gateway to ask for help and to just display our vulnerability. But in the same way, suffering and disappointment and being attached to stuff is a great way for us to allow things to matter to us. And that's a vulnerable state. It's getting at the edge of that emotion, getting at the edge of that imagination, of that possibility, and then falling off of the edge. How else would you know if you can fly unless you fall off? And sometimes we promise ourselves things that we know we can deliver, and that's not standing at the edge, and it's not risking anything. So that vulnerability and the possibility of pain or disappointment or suffering is what allows us to live at the edge of our own ingenuity and resourcefulness and connection. So there is a purpose for that as well.
That was freaking beautiful. I'm gonna listen to this episode over and over and over and over. Thank you so much, Dr.
Wow, that's
Ogando.
great.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. That's great. And thank you for the question, because it's in everybody's mind, right? It's like, okay, well, how do I do this without suffering? Why would you want to if you know what suffering is for? Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for spending your Thursday morning getting a little bit of Monikah in your life. I appreciate you being here. And I have an announcement. Gio and Sorel already know this, but over the next 2 weeks, I am going to be, this is why I'm dressed like this, I'm going to be in the motherland. I'm going to be leading a sacred mystery school tour in Egypt. So I'm going to come in from the field, and I already have some juicy content for you, but it's going to be pre-recorded, and they're going to show it to you in that way. We're going to see what we're going to do, how we're going to negotiate the next 2 weeks. But I just wanted to let you know that I will be in Egypt for the next 2 weeks, and I'll see you back here live in October. But this is not the last you've seen of me in September. So thank you so much for being here. As always, I remind you of Patty Dabrowski's principles of badass living. That's what I'm calling them. Love with all of your heart, give generously, move your body, shake your tail feather, sleep, get at least 6 or 7 hours, eat more plant-based, eat the trees, as Giovanni says, stress less, laugh out loud, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Always check your assumptions. See you next time.